Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Before we get started, I want you to know, guys, that if you have a sales team in your brewery or you supply equipment, ingredients, or any other type of products or services to breweries, you want to pay close attention to what we'll be talking on this episode. Guys, our guest today is a business development and sales professional with more than 15 years of experience. He spent 90 years being trained in a corporate environment by one of the top training companies in the country. And he took that sales and business development training and spent 6 years translating it to a system that works in the construction industry. Since then, he has helped several companies grow and generate millions of dollars in revenue. He took his experience in sales and working directly for construction companies, and now he decided he wants to help more businesses. Guys, in this episode, he will be sharing with us how the same systems and processes can apply to your brewery, your business, and make more sales. So welcome to the show, Mike. It is a pleasure to have you here, man.
Appreciate it, man. Excited to be here. I always love doing these things and trying to help people and take some of the mistakes I've made and learn how to overcome and try and educate people to try and shorten that failure gap and give them some tips and tricks to try to help them, get the success that they've been looking for.
Absolutely, man. I think that's important, especially when you're an entrepreneur. Share your mistakes and lessons so others can avoid that and save time and money, right? So, Mike, let's jump right in, and so people can get to know a little bit better. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background so people can get to know more who's Mike Claudio?
Yeah, sure. So, Mike Claudio, I own WinRate Consulting. I do business development, leadership coaching for the home service construction world now. But, like you said, I kind of started in corporate America. I worked for Verizon Wireless for almost 10 years. And for about 5 years of that, I did the retail side. So anybody who's dealing in the retail environment, I feel for you. If you've waited tables or been a bartender or worked retail, dealing with the public, man, you're one of me. Like that is a tough world to be in, but that's kind of where I started. And I got into more of the B2B, business to business sales environment for several years before getting into the entrepreneurship world about 6 or 7 years ago. But sales and sales leadership is pretty much all I've done in my life. College didn't really work out for me. I was a baseball player and that was about it. And college didn't work. And I got a job pretty early on and kind of been hustling in that sales and leadership arena for the past, I guess, 15 or 16 years. And I promise I've seen, learned, and failed a lot along the way that now I've basically created I don't want to call it a curriculum, but an education that I now pour into my clients and people who are listening now. Like the retail world is tough, and understanding how to do that in a B2B as well as B2C environment, guys, and gals, it's an ever changing and ever evolving environment for sure.
Yeah, especially now with all these coronavirus, is definitely going to evolve, and we're going to see complete different trends coming
Yeah,
now,
I
right?
was talking to a business owner yesterday, and I was like, "What? You didn't have a contingency plan for a worldwide shutdown for a pandemic? Like that wasn't in your 2020 plans?" And it's like nobody had a contingency plan for this. I mean, the country didn't even have a contingency plan for this from a government perspective. So, overall, these are weird times that I hope we never see again. Like I hope we never have a situation like this again. But that we were talking kind of before we went live about, I think this is going to create a lot of really, really good, new modern approach to an old way of doing things because of people forcing to use technology and get more on social media and get more online and do more e-commerce. Because if you're a retail store and you don't have e-commerce right now, you can't do business, right? So, there's definitely like a lot of restaurants going to the online ordering that kind of fought it for a while, and a lot of that stuff that there's gonna be a lot of good that comes from this if you're willing to adapt and be creative and modernize your approach. You got to get in front of your consumer on a more consistent basis through the web. And there's a number of ways to do that, which I'm sure we'll jump into at some point today. But, I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come from this, and taking that personalized and communication approach and figuring a way to innovate in that gets your product, service, or offering in front of more people on a more consistent basis and more targeted. Get on board with that. If you don't, and I know you preach this a lot, but if you don't get on board with trying to innovate right now and learn new ways and force yourself to fail a little bit, even this Zoom calls live on Facebook. Who knew a year ago that this was going to be important, right? But this is like, even Facebook Live has adjusted how they do things. And the big corporations are going to innovate and adjust, and you better get on board with that or you're going to get left in the dust.
Right. And like you mentioned at the beginning, you have a lot of experience in the retail space. And as you know, most of my audience is craft
Yep.
beer, is the craft beer industry, brewery owners, people that who supplies equipment, ingredients to the breweries as well. So we have a little bit of B2B and B2C here in this audience. And but you were mentioned about how it's important to start adapting to new trends. But before we get into that, I'm sure that probably people is asking right now. So why this guy that has been helping construction companies can help us in the craft beer industry? Like I said in other episodes, business is business, sales is sales. It can be the same process and systems that can apply to different industries and can work throughout any type of business. So let's start from let's talk about those processes and businesses that you help construction companies and how that can help
Yeah, so
this
like honestly,
industry.
my background's technology sales, right? So I've sold to consumers and I've sold to businesses, and I got into the world and basically took really what was just a communication process and adapted it to a different product or service. So I'm not saying I'm unique in that, but I have found success in figuring out a process that works regardless of the product or offering or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. So, because I really focus from a communication perspective. I've actually been recently saying, like, I am actually a communication expert, like understanding how my buyer makes decisions, whether it's B2C or B2B, how to deliver a message that really grasps them and a message that matters to what solving one of their problems are, uncovering what the problems of my target market is. Because right now I help businesses kind of all over in the home services world. Some are products, some are services, some are B2B, some are B2C. So, I guess to answer the question more directly is like I've helped businesses all over the spectrum. My background happens to be focused on a niche, but my experience and knowledge is really kind of broad spectrum in who I can help, because it really sales, like you said, business is business, and sales is just communicating the right message to the right people at the right time. And if you can do that effectively, it doesn't matter what you're selling and who you're selling to. If you can do those things effectively, at least in my opinion, you can be successful in really anything that you're trying to get in front of people.
Which I believe, like you said, communication is key, and that is some of the things that I try to teach my audience and my clients, and how important it is to communicate their message. Because just because everybody in this industry sells beer, it doesn't mean that everybody have the same message or the same audience, right?
Well,
How do
wildly
you
different. I mean, sours and lagers, not the same audience, right? IPAs and lights, not the same audience. And where they're drinking and how they're drinking and where they are looking for information. Because one of the best things you can do as a business is put the information in the right place. Where's your identified or ideal client looking for information? Because it's going to be different. Where do they hang out? Where do they network? Who are they around? Where are they looking on social media? What groups are they a part of? That's going to be different depending on the product or service that you're selling. And then truly understanding what drives that target market to make a decision one way or the other. If you don't fully understand that, you need to start asking more questions. One of the biggest things you can do as a business is ask your clients more questions around why they buy from you or why they like your product, and then use that terminology or that verbiage back to your outbound messaging, because if it aligns with one, it's likely it will align with many, in the sense of why that person made a decision to do business with you.
absolutely. And like one of your biggest approaches is to have a system and to have a process, right?
Hmm.
Because and that's the other thing, I know that many breweries and people in this industry, they don't really have a process for a sales process, which
Hmm.
is, I believe, the most important part. Because like we were talking before we were live, like, yeah, you can brew the best beer, but if there's nobody buying it,
It's a
what is
hobby,
the
not
whole
a
point?
business, right? And, and
Exactly.
and and I run into a lot of that too, like just kind of comparing industries. Like there's a lot of handymen who like doing small work here or there, but they're not running their business like a business. It's more of a hobby, and there's not a wrong or right answer to that. And I've made that pretty clear to people I've worked with. Like, if you want to be a hobbyist, great, I'm happy for you. But if you're complaining that your business isn't growing while approaching your business as a hobby, you need those systems and process. That's what differentiates a hobbyist from a business. Somebody who does it consistently every day, as opposed to someone who just wants to do it when they want to do it. That those are not the same people, and those are not the same environments and ecosystems that create success. So yeah, it's incredibly important to understand what your goals are with what you're trying to accomplish.
So I'm sure you help your clients and teach them how important it is to start where defining who's that perfect audience, and then crafting that message to them, right? And you are
Yep.
in an industry that I'm sure is very skeptical about the use of social media and using the internet and all that kind of stuff. How you have helped your industry or the construction people understand and leverage the power of social media?
So one of the biggest things that I help people is creating that message that actually matters to a specific audience. So my process when I coach, or my curriculum, we'll call it, is based on four main pillars. It's identify, target, qualify, and acquire. So first you have to identify who you're going after. And that is absolutely the most important part of this, because what happened and why people struggled with adapting to social media is they didn't know what to say. And they didn't know what to say because they've always focused internally on why us. We have in your case, we have the best beer, the best product, or the best this, the best that. No one cares. No one cares you've been in business for 30 years. No one cares that it was your granddad's company. No one cares that you have the best product or you operate with integrity, because ultimately there has to be a counter to that for it to matter. Like, nobody in business says, work with us at your own risk, we might take advantage of you, right? Like, no one says that. So saying you work with integrity or have a best product, well, of course you do. There's no differentiating factors there. So, but once you've identified who you're going after, what your ideal client is, then you can get granular on what problems they have. You get granular on how they make decisions, where they make decisions, where they go for information, like what drives them to do things in different atmospheres and different seasons. But until you've identified that, and I'm sure brewers deal with the same thing that, a lot of home service companies deal with, where like, everybody that drinks beer is not your ideal client, right? Like, everybody who has a mouth is not your ideal client. Just because they consume liquid doesn't mean that you can target them. So narrowing it down will actually expand your success, because then you can get incredibly more targeted. In the target phase, now you're better understanding where to put the message and what message to say in order to align yourself with your target market. And my process, well, I'll call it, for developing content is really around a problem, cause, solution, benefit structure. What is the problem that your identified market is having? What is the cause of that problem? What is the potential solution? And what is the benefit they will get by implementing that solution? When you do it that way, you can get incredibly granular to tell a story in a way that says, hey, you're probably dealing with this, and here's why you're dealing with it, and here's a solution, aka our beer or product. Here's the benefit you'll get by doing that, right? When you do that effectively, you tell that story really and get better at telling that story effectively, the client starts to see themselves as a character in your story. You kind of compare it to the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker situation. Like, you want to guide them to what they are trying to do, and they want to be able to see themselves as getting the benefit in your story. And if you start with talking about yourself, they're going to check out. Like, they're just, like, you saying we have the best beer, we have the best products. They're not buying into why they need to keep listening or keep reading. But when you lead up with their problems, I always kind of compare it to the late night infomercials, right? It's like, do your ankles hurt? Yeah, well, matter of fact, they do. Are your legs swollen all the time? Well, yeah, they are. Like, does your back hurt? Yeah, it does. You need to buy these knives, right? Like, it's like all they do is get your attention by you aligning yourself with their problems. And ultimately, as a business owner, it does not matter what you do or who you sell to. You are a problem solver. And if you approach your business as, I am here to solve a problem, then you can get incredibly better at closing people, because you can align your solution with a problem. What a lot of business owners and a lot of people in general struggle with is they fabricate problems for the solution they think the market wants, as opposed to saying, hey, this market has this problem. How can I fill that gap? How can I solve that problem? And then it's a lot easier to align yourself and get yourself in front of the right people, which makes it easier for them to decide to do business with you. And people don't decide until they are emotionally drawn to you solving something for them. That's just how, emotion drives action. That is just human. That's just human way people work, right? So if you can grasp onto and align yourself with their emotions and say, hey, I can get you from this place of a negative emotion to this place of a positive emotion, you can plug any product or service into that and say, hey, if you're having this problem, we believe this solution will bring you this benefit, and you understand your market well enough, you'll win. It doesn't matter what you're selling.
Wow, that's powerful, man. That's really, really good information that you're sharing right there, because that's pretty much what I'm trying to communicate also with this industry, and how important it is to really narrow down who is that ideal client, how to define your message, your core message, your core story, and how to actually put it out there so you can influence people at a deeper level, you know?
Well, you need to align with them, right? Like your messaging needs to be congruent between your website, your social media, and then your in-person experience. One of the biggest misses I see in retail environments is their online image does not match their in-person experience. And like if you can look at your social media and website and say that does not equate to the way that my clients would experience us in person, change it immediately, because everybody who thinks to come to you, they're going to look you up online first. And if they don't align with the image they see, they are not going to step foot in your location. They're just not going to do it. It's too risky for them because they don't want to set themselves up for disappointment or failure. That's a negative emotion. So if your online presence does not match the quality of your in-person experience, you have got to focus on that immediately. Because right now
Right.
is the best time to do that, because people are going to be looking. People are going to be looking to get out of the house when this is over. Well, they're going to be looking around about who's having this or who's doing this or who has that option. And the better you can do it, aligning yourself with mirroring those two things, they have to be similar, because that's how people make decisions on in today's ecosystem and environment, specifically with breweries and bars and restaurants. They are absolutely looking up and seeing how your online presence makes them feel, and if they feel excited, they'll come. If they feel like, nah, what about the next one? You got it. Like that's the first level and layer of the qualification of whether or not you are right for them and they are right for you, is what your online presence dictates.
And I'm sure that after all this is over, most people, the first thing they want to do is go to their local restaurant, their local bar, their local brewery. I don't think they want to go to the mall,
No, I
right?
mean they're gonna be going out because they're tired of cooking, they're tired of drinking alone. Those are the two things people are tired of right now, right? They're drinking around the kids and they're eating the same shit every day because they don't know how to cook. So like talk about it, and like kind of getting a little off topic, but talking about social media and online presence, start pouring out information online. Do some educational stuff, do some recipes, do like a live walkthrough of how to cook something, and get your market engaged with you, because they will remember you for that on the other side of this. If you're sitting back saying, well, I can't open, so I can't do anything, you're going to lose a lot harder this year than somebody who's out there right now delivering value. Do things like, hey, let's entertain your kids for 30 minutes and do something funny, or do something fun, or do an adventure, or do a recipe, or show someone how to make beer and they can kind of do some stuff on their own, or create a box that people can buy for $69 and $79 to say, here's your at-home kit. Good luck.
Wow, that's a
Tune in tomorrow. We're going to walk you through the steps to unbox this and start the process. Right now,
which
they're engaging with you on a personal level, and you're solving an immediate problem for them, which is not, I need a beer. It's, I need to be distracted. I need something to do. I need to get myself doing something at the house other than laying on the couch watching whatever that stupid show is that's out. That was Tiger King or something.
Joe Exotic.
I haven't watched it. I'm not going to. I have too many other things to do to spend time doing that. But the bottom line is you can solve a problem right now, even though you can't operate like you normally would. Right.
which I
So
appreciate.
entertain and educate. Just get out there and do it.
Which I appreciate you mentioning that, because I believe that most business owners, not only breweries, a lot of business owners that's where they're struggling right now. They don't see a solution. They think that there's no ways to actually keep operating and keep selling and keep growing their business, even in the middle of all this situation, right? And like you were saying, the social media part, uh, because I'm sure that you have encountered this objection. It's like, oh, I try to make a post on social media and that didn't work, right? How do you teach your people how to start building and ramp it up? Because you and me, we both know that this takes time. It's something that is not going to happen overnight, but the longer you keep waiting, the longer you're not going to be able to see results, right?
So, I mean, it's kind of a multi approach. So I'm gonna try and answer it as succinctly as I can. But some of the bigger things is you have to have the right intention behind why you're doing it. Like, what is the goal? If your goal is to get clients tomorrow, so posting on social media ain't gonna be it. It's just not. Like, you got to have the right approach. So unless you're putting a bunch of money behind it and driving, ads and on Google and Facebook, yeah, that could work, but it gets kind of expensive and it can get a little more cumbersome to do on your own. But if you have the approach of, I just want to grow awareness of us, post every day. I mean, most of the biggest influencers, went months or years where no one was reading their shit. And all of a sudden they're an overnight success. No, they've been putting the work for 5 to 10 years. All of a sudden everybody knows about them because it built up over time. So the first thing is have the right approach. Why am I doing this? And I look at it from the standpoint of, you are planting a seed. Like, let's use the beer analogy. That beer isn't ready tomorrow if you start it today, right? There's a process. It takes time to mature from raw ingredients to a drinkable product, right? So there's no difference in the social media game. You're starting a process that will yield a result over time. So you have to have the right understanding of why you're doing it. There's a recipe to success. You can't rush baking a cake. You can't rush brewing beer. You can't do it. There's a time, right? So you can't just say, oh, well, now I'm focused and now I want results and I'm going to start today. No, you need to be doing work today that's going to pay off the next 2 to 3 years, right? And can it be shorter than that? Sure, but it's not the standard. Like, most people don't get success on social media in the first 90 days, but you're growing awareness. And, a stat that I heard recently that I kind of always knew, but never saw it put this way, is only 6% of consumers are ready to make a decision today. 6% of people who are interested in what you have to sell are interested in making a decision today. About 70% are starting the research on what and when they will be doing it. Right now, all consumers can do is research. They can't go anywhere. I'm going to use this as a prime example. And the other people are looking around and might make a decision one day. But if you look at it from that standpoint, there's a really small sample size of people that can actually decide on what you're looking to do today. And I've always used kind of the same mindset for a while now on social media. And it's, if what I have to say or show will bring value to one person, it's irresponsible of me to not post it. Because most people will come up, I don't know what to say. Not that I don't want to, I just don't know what to say. Well, just regurgitate experiences that you're having already. Just document what you're doing already and put it on social media. And you'll get better at crafting it over time, but until you start, you won't get good at it, right? I mean, like I'm sure the first batch of beer somebody made was not as good as the last one they made, right? And so it took time for you to like figure out the ingredients, what works, what doesn't work, what percentage of this or percentage of that, or how long or how short. Social media is the same way, because honestly, in a brewing process, it doesn't really change. You put the same ingredients through the same process, you get the same results. In social media, that shit changes all the time. It's constantly changing. So even somebody who's an expert has to relearn it on a pretty consistent basis. So until you start, there's no way for you to pivot into a direction that allows you to be more successful if you don't even know what the second step is. So, if what you have to say can bring value to one person, post it. If you don't know what to post, sit down at the end of the day and say, what's the biggest lesson I learned, or what is the biggest problem I solved today, and talk about it. That's simple. And it's because people look at it as, well, I got to create special content for social media. Is there a time and place for that? Yes. But when you start, just create. And then you'll learn what you're good at, bad at. Are you better at the written word? Are you better at audio? Are you better at video? Are you better at long format or short format posts? You don't know yet. Many don't. So you got to figure out what works best for you, and that comes through trial and error. So I would suggest the best way to create content every day is to figure out what is the biggest lesson you learned today, or what is the biggest problem you solved today, and just talk about it. Just explain the story. Just get better at storytelling by storytelling.
Or actually, it can be a good idea right now that you mentioned that, even share the experience on a daily basis of what's going on behind doors right now that the breweries are closed. I think that will be very engagement content.
Yeah, but
Very
also
emotional.
like how are you being creative right now? What are you doing at testing new flavors? Because I'm sure you're doing something. If you're just sitting at home on the couch doing nothing all day every day, I can't help you. I don't know. You can't help yourself. I can't help you. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying, if you're not experiencing things or trying to be creative or pivot in this environment, you got to do something. So educate on how you got to where you are. Tell the story of how you decide on the flavors you decided on. Sometimes it's just telling a story about how you got where you got. And because people love the story, people love the background and understanding how you got where you got and what got you there and why you made decisions and what's the story behind the name of that beer, right? Because you named it for a reason. What's the story behind it? If you have a dozen beers, that could be 12 stories. Maybe 12, it could be 2 weeks of posts. just talking about how you named every beer you've ever named. People love how people make decisions on stuff like that. I mean, in my opinion, like the brewery industry is some of the most creative people out there, right? Because they have to come up with names and labels and cans and bottles and really unique breweries to gain interest. Like they're generally creative people. That shouldn't be reserved for just you and your small following. Put it out there and let people see how you go about your creative process and when you're trying new things or how you name things. Like those are great stories. People love that stuff. And it'll also, going back to, it'll help your identified ideal target market relate to you better. Because now they're understanding, hey, you think like I think, hey, that's awesome. I agree with that. Or, hey, I relate to that. Maybe it's worth trying. I didn't know that part of his story before. Now I think I actually have something in common with him. Let's go try his beers. Like that happens all the time with stuff when people change their story or start telling stories differently.
Absolutely. So, well, I don't know, to be honest with you, how people is dealing with people that you work with is dealing right now during these times, but I'm sure that you are showing in the process of what they should be doing right now. So when this is over, everything can go back to normal and even better. Would you mind telling us more a little bit about what are you doing right now with your clients to help them get through this season and build that authority, that presence on social media?
I mean, the biggest thing has been virtual consultations of some sort, but also in just general virtual networking, right? Because there are a lot of people right now that normally would not have had time to sit down and engage with you who now have time to sit down and engage with you. And trying to promote virtual consultations or Zoom meetings or getting to that, let's say you sell a product to breweries, they're at home on social media right now. PM their ass. Hey, we'd love to get on a call with you, just talk real quick. Do you have 5 minutes? Whatever it is, like don't be afraid to prospect out right now. One of the biggest things I've seen are people afraid to do business because they think it's insensitive. And my opinion is it's not insensitive. I think the majority of the culture right now is wishing it was business as usual. They want to make decisions. They want to spend money. They want to have human and adult interaction. Give it to them. Reach out, post on your social media. Hey, we'll spend 10 minutes with anybody who's trying to brew at home to educate them. Right. And if you're B2B, reach out to those businesses who are now not able to operate and now have time to jump on a Zoom call and have a conversation with you. So you're planting those seeds, you're doing those power moves that we call it to set yourself up for success on the back end. Because there's so many people right now that have time that they normally wouldn't have. And I'm one of them. Like, look, I'm a speaker and coach for a living. I had 5 different speaking engagements throughout the country in April, all postponed. And I had a bunch of clients, not a good percentage of my clients kind of paused for the month of April with unknowns and they didn't want to spend the money, which I totally agreed with. So I'm writing a book right now because I have downtime I wouldn't have had normally. I'm taking meetings and I'm doing more podcast collaborations because I have time now that I normally, if it was my normal routine, we would not be having this conversation right now. And this helps both of us, but like think if you're watching this right now, who's in your market or who's in your target audience that you're like, man, maybe they have time now that they didn't have before. And I challenge you to not be afraid to just try to run business as normal as possible because there's a lot of people out there that are looking for some normalcy. They're looking for some consistency. They're looking for some relatability to the way it used to be. And it'll never be exactly how it was before this virus, but you can give them some sort of just adult conversation. Not salesy, not let me close you on something like, hey, we've never had a chance to talk in person. Do you have 10 minutes to jump on a Zoom call with me? That's it. Like, it's pretty simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It becomes how are you targeting? Who are you targeting? And then, generally how many people, how important is it for you to get in front of people? If you're a brewery or a restaurant right now, try to connect with influencers. There are local influencers in every market. There's the nightlife and the people who go out all the time and event planners and stuff that can't hold events right now. Guess what? They have time on their hands. And connecting with people like that who can drive people in your direction because you gave them something, you educated them on something, or you just generally connected with them differently than you would have had a chance to before. Find a way to creatively get in front of people that maybe you've been trying for a long time or have never tried because you're like, maybe they're too important or too big or too busy for me. You'd be surprised how much people are looking for some just normal conversation right now.
And I totally agree with you because one of the things that we are working right now is not only building that with some of the clients that I have, not only building that online presence right now during this time, but we actually already have an action plan for after all this is over. That is not gonna roll out uh, right when it's over. Like once we find out when we're gonna go back to normal, we're gonna start rolling it out, and they're gonna have they're gonna recover. I'm
I
completely.
think I think everybody will, because I think there's gonna be a lot of pent up demand in the marketplace, especially in going out and drinking with socially and getting together with friends, and that's gonna come back incredibly fast, incredibly abrupt, because everybody's gonna be looking to get out of their house. Everybody's gonna be traveling. Everybody's gonna be looking for a way to get out and engage with people. So be ready. Don't be ill prepared for the wave of just the general public getting back out in the market on the back end of this, because it's going to come quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, most of the time or during this show, we always talk mostly to like the brewery owners, like to the B2C audience, right? And you were mentioning right now that this is the opportunity to jump on a Zoom call with a client. I know that there's people watching this, that they supply equipment for breweries, they supply hops and all that kind of stuff, that they might be thinking right now, like, well, nobody wants to buy my stuff. But yeah, maybe not now, but if you don't start building those relationships right now, it can, you can even be the solution for somebody right now. So how will you encourage them to actually keep working on what they're doing and start building those relationships, the follow-up, the famous follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, fortune's definitely in the follow-up. And I think in this environment, it's how well are you putting out content that people want to engage with? So an idea could be that this kind of just popped in my head, to be honest with you. Let's say you're a dog-friendly brewery. Right now, do a Zoom call with a dog trainer and promote it on your page and invite people that are in your market to watch, right? Because your clients who have dogs that want to be there have an interest in understanding more dog training tactics. So do something like that. Like if you have some sort of specific target market, you can't really follow up with consumers one-on-one. Like that's just not a very effective way to do that. But try to do some sort of a virtual happy hour. Hey, we're going to get on, we're going to talk about our business. We want some of our clients to get on and talk about their lives, and let's just have a beer together, right? And I'm not sure how e-commerce works in everybody's market. I'm not a brewery expert, but hey, order a 4-pack, we'll deliver it to you, and we're going to do a happy hour next week. We want you, everybody, to get on and enjoy our beer with us. Like you do a half price deal, or even just give it away, just get people remembering you on the backside of this. And like there's a tequila brand I know right now that's doing deliveries locally. Like they can't, like restaurants and bars are closed, so they're literally hand delivering bottles of tequila to people that are buying them online. Like I know it's possible, and in your case, it's have a weekly happy hour or even a daily happy hour where you're getting on and just delivering some sort of entertainment to your audience in your marketplace. Promote it locally, put some dollars behind it on Facebook as an event that is exciting. Have some sort of subject matter expert that would matter to your ideal client. Like let's just say you're this is just alcohol in general, but let's just say you're part of what you sell is wine. Well, get on and do a wine tasting and say, hey, anybody who wants to pick up these 4 bottles, let us know. We'll get them to you ahead of time so you can be a part of the wine tasting experience. Talk about creative and giving people something to do at home, right? There's, I don't know, millions of millennials right now that all they know how to do is drink and socialize, who can't leave their homes. Give them an opportunity to socialize in some sort of unique way. So again, you can't really follow up with direct to consumer, but you can give them reasons to keep coming back to your page to engage your message in a way that makes them want to meet you in person or come to your facility. And you might come up with ideas that now you turn from virtual into in person on the back side of this. And I mean, those are ideas I kind of just pulled out of my head, but I think they would work really well.
No, but that's a great idea. The one that you mentioned about the dog trainer, especially for those breweries who are dog friendly, that not only will help the trainer, but they will help them too. That
Oh
would be
yeah,
a great
no, bring
exposure
back
for.
both those people, right? And then now the dog trainer's saying, man, we got to drive business to that brewery, and like, or maybe we'll hold an in-person event there later. And then now they're bringing all of their clients to your facility on the back end to have an in-person dog training. And it's just like, man, the snowball effect of that can be massive in how you connect with an audience that really cares about what you're offering.
Yeah, and now right now talking about these ideas, there's a brewery here in Dallas that they have like yoga classes on Saturdays. Obviously, they cannot have those classes, but if they get creative, can be an opportunity to make a live class, you
Oh yeah.
know,
Oh
with
yeah.
the people there.
Virtual, you're on there, the yoga teacher's on there, and then your people who are normally there saying, hey, free virtual yoga for anybody who registers. We'll give you a free beer on the back end of this. Whenever you can come back out, if you register for the free yoga class, we'll give you a free beer. That gets them coming to you instead of somewhere else on the back end, because they're going somewhere. People are going to be spending money, period. If you want them to spend it with you, then somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you were mentioning about e-commerce, I think at this point, it has been a big lesson for this industry when it comes to e-commerce, and they are experiencing the power and how this can actually help skyrocket their sales even after this madness is gone. Because I was talking to somebody the other day, it's like, yeah, once your tap room is open, guess what? You keep selling online, you keep selling on your tap room. Guess what? Your sales are just gonna go up. Things are
Well,
gonna be better for
here's
you.
a real life scenario that could actually happen. I mean, there's many smaller breweries that try to get into local establishments, like not tap rooms, but more like convenience stores and grocery stores, right? Like that's kind of like a really great place for a lot of, like, I know in Charlotte, there's a ton of breweries that try and get into the Harris Teeters, the big grocery chain here. Well, let's say you have been having trouble doing that. And if you get really good at e-commerce, you get your direct to consumer sales, you can go back and say, hey, here's all the people that are buying from us. Wouldn't you love to stock some of this in your store? Now you're showing proof of concept because of the effort you put on your back and that sweat equity. And now you're getting massive orders from local convenience stores and grocery stores because you put in the effort to show the market wants what you have to sell. No offense, your beer may not be better than somebody else's, but you did a better job selling it, which makes your beer more profitable to anybody who's also interested in selling it.
Absolutely. And now that you're saying that, you also mentioned at the beginning about how many people in the construction company also they fell from the, or you're running a business or you this is a hobby, right? And I think what you just said, it perfectly aligns with that comment. Now, the reason why I bring that to you is because all these ideas that you shared, I think not only are very powerful ideas, but are things that, like you're saying, you can teach anybody,
Mm.
and can be applicable in any industry at any given point, especially now. What are one of the things that your clients or people in your industry it is doing out of the norm that is helping them keep their business alive? Like, for example, what I'm trying to tell you is, or ask you is, we see people like there's a brewery in I don't remember what it is. I think somewhere in the West Coast,
Mm.
and they partnered with a cinema. So now they're having um, like they invited all their clients or their customers, and they put a big screen and they find a way to broadcast the audio to their radios, and people were watching movies from their cars. So that's kind of like out of the norm, something extraordinary idea. So what people in your industry is doing right now to keep going in this time?
I mean, I think collaborating is a big part of it. Like, how are you educating your clients? I mean, like most home service companies right now are still marked as essential businesses, so they're basically pivoting what they are doing within their business. So the unfortunate reality is the restaurant brewery world does not have that luxury to be able to pivot. But is there something you could be doing right now with, let's just say, food delivery or another way for you to create revenue for your business? So most of my companies who are home service companies do technically qualify under the essential business side of the shutdown or the shelter in place for many communities, because I have clients all over the country. So there's different people are at different levels of lockdown right now. But pivoting their service offering has been the biggest thing. So I'm not sure there's one specific item that I would say, but pivoting, either collaborating with somebody else who you can help them scale, because like, right, I mean, like there's businesses right now that have certain skill sets that are scaling because of the situation. There's certain businesses that are declining because of the situation. Well, if you're declining right now, go find someone who's scaling and say, hey, let me help offset some of that influx that you don't have the personnel to handle, so that we can both make money as part of this situation. So collaborating could be what I think is a really good thing right now, but really just pivoting your service offering and how you're aligning with what the current market needs. And in your industry is really just people want to be entertained better at home, and whatever you can do to do that in the home service, it's how are you better protecting people at home is kind of the mission of this of what's happening right now. So um Sorry about that, man.
Siri wanted to be in the show.
Siri wanted to be in the show. So I think collaboration and somehow pivoting the message of what you're doing. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. If you understand the problems your ideal client is dealing with, you will be creative to find solutions, as opposed to finding a solution and hoping there's a big enough problem for it. So if you're looking at it in your business, you're in the entertainment business. If you're in the brewery space, you're trying to make people happy, you're trying to entertain them, you're trying to give them something to do, trying to distract them from their normal routine. You used to do that in person with beer at a picnic table or at a bar. How can you do that now, even though you don't have the physical location? How can you still bring value to some of these people? Will be the best thing you can do from a pivoting right now perspective. Does that answer the question? I think that answered the question.
Yeah, that answers the question, man. Thank you so much for answering that, because most of the things that you have mentioned during this time, it is some of the things that I always try to teach my audience, because here's the thing. I know that we are in hard times. I know that it's not easy to find good ideas on how to keep your business going, how you keep your doors open, especially when you have restrictions like with alcohol, right? There's people in different states that they are able to deliver. Like here in Dallas, they're not able to deliver, but they have the opportunity to sell beer to go. I feel sorry for my people in Nevada, because those guys are shut down and the governor is not allowing them to even, it's not allowing to operate.
Everybody's in a little bit of a different, everybody has a pile of shit. Some people are just bigger than others.
Right.
So.
But I also believe that, like I said in a couple of weeks ago, that it's very important at this point to understand that even that nobody was prepared for this, it is a big lesson when it comes to know that it is important to have a process and a system and know exactly how your business operates, because most of the businesses that are thriving right now are people who implemented these kind of things, are people who've been working on their social media presence, that they have a specific system and process, not only in case of moments like this, but for any situation in any given season in their business, right?
If you don't have a system and process now for building relationships with your market geographically, start. Like if that's the only thing you take away from this call, is start to build an online relationship with people who can visit or purchase your product, service, or location. So that's the pivot I think you're trying to describe right now, is people who pivoted online to not try to sell, but to build awareness and a relationship with their audience. Those are the people who are going to win right now. And the people who are trying to start from scratch, it's going to take them some time to catch up, because everybody is engaging online right now, and whoever had the biggest audience is going to have the biggest success. So yeah, definitely highly suggest that.
Which I'm sure that's another question that you have answered so many times to your audience, because when you say those kind of things, people is like, yeah, but everybody is online, man. I think it's saturated. I don't think people is gonna be able to see me there. How do you handle that question?
I mean, you have to identify a niche that you're going after, or a type of person, or a type of problem. When you get, the world has been built on people who do the same thing as somebody else, but do it a little bit differently or a little bit better. And me and you could be standing side by side at a fair with a table in front of us and the same exact product, and one of us is going to sell more than the other. Why? Well, it's because of how we related to the audience that was in front of us, how we delivered the message, and how well we built a relationship with the person that's in front of us. Whoever's better at that is going to win. I don't care if there's 10 of us side by side. Whoever figured out a way to build a better relationship by aligning themselves with their audience is going to win. So if it's been somebody who's been doing social media for a long time the same way, you can win right now because you can do it differently, right? Social media has changed. So the way people are engaging with it has changed. So starting from scratch can be a good thing sometimes, because you can be more innovative and try something differently, as opposed to somebody who's, I'm afraid to change my social media strategy because this is what's worked for us so far. So it can be, there's pros and cons to both sides of that coin.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that, man. So yeah, I think you have shared a lot of very valuable information here, man. I think we all, like we said before, we are on the same boat. And beyond social media, I think, like you said, building your audience right now, building your presence and build that foundation for your business is what matters right now, and probably one of the easiest solutions during this time to make sure your business is going to still open after this. So
Kind of the only solution right now is to get and start to build relationships online with people. And the best way to do that in your space is to entertain. Like, be a distraction from the mundane that people are stuck in right now in their routines, and give them a reason to tune in to watch what you have to say.
yeah, you can be that positive note on a daily basis because we are surrounded by so much negativity right now. And that's another thing too, like people is just falling for so much negativity right now. And us as business owners and anybody else watching this who's a business owner or even an employee, you cannot allow yourself just to fall for all this negativity. But this can be an opportunity for you to be in the same way a brewery represents something very important for the communities,
Mhm.
they can take the same message and the same approach on social media and be that note of positivity on a daily basis for their audience, for their community, and for the people they serve. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I don't know a better way to say it. I mean, it's imperative to pivot in some sort of a direction right now. And I would say the best thing you can do is get out of your comfort zone. I think that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, and stop making excuses.
Yeah. Do something that makes you a little uncomfortable because you have to learn it. I mean, everything's uncomfortable the first time you try it. So just do it.
Absolutely right, man. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you taking the
Yeah,
time
you're
being
welcome. I
here.
appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. I really appreciate it because I think you share a lot of valuable information, like I said, and also reinforce a lot of the things that we're trying to teach this industry to learn and understand why it's important, especially in a modern world like in the one we live right now. Yeah, it is a disaster right now, but still we need to keep learning and we need to keep moving forward. So I really appreciate you bringing all this information and sharing with us your experience, man. If there's anything else you would like to say to this audience before we leave, also maybe somebody wants to reach out to you, ask you some question where they can find you, maybe your social media.
Yeah. So find me on Instagram is the best place to find me at WinRate Consulting, WINRATE. Like, what's your win rate? At what rate are you winning? I'm big about winning. But my closing thoughts would be, do something different, get out of your comfort zone, and try something new right now, because everybody is failing in one way, shape, or form. So you're not going to be unique in that sense. So in a world full of people struggling right now, struggle at something new that you can turn into a return on investment of that effort right now, like starting an online channel, or getting your social media really ramped up. Those are great things you can do right now that you'll look back on and say, that is the reason I'm successful now, as opposed to the coronavirus is why my business is no longer around. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that looks back and blames this on why your business failed. Look back and say, because of that, I was able to do this thing, this wild and crazy thing that I never thought I'd be able to do. And that's why I'm still successful today. Be that guy.
That's a great message, man. Thank you. That's really good advice. I really appreciate you sharing that with my audience. So thank you so much again, man. I really appreciate your time. And for you guys watching right now, or the ones going to listen here in the future to the podcast or watch this on YouTube or here in our group, I really appreciate you guys taking the time of watching and tuning in. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. Mike here is here to help too. And you can reach out to him on Instagram, or I can contact you with him and make the connection there.
Comment below, comment later, follow me on Instagram at WinRate Consulting. I mean, pretty easy to get in touch with us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so easy nowadays, man. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys, and I hope this helped you. And I will see you guys next week for another great episode of the Brewing Business Show. Later. Cheers. What's going on, guys? Thank you for watching. This show was brought to you by the Marketing Brewing Company. And if you know somebody out there who can benefit from all this information, make sure you share this episode on your Facebook, on your Instagram, your LinkedIn, send it by text, email, whatever you got to do to spread the word and help us reach more people. Now, if you're a brewery owner who's ready to grow and scale your business, make sure you go to the link in the description. That's marketingbrewingcall.com. Enter your information. That way, one of my team members can reach out to you, hear more about your business, about your story, and find a way to help you grow and scale your business and take your brewery to the next level. And also, guys, if you have some suggestions, if you would like to see some special guests in the future, you can also send your suggestions to pedro@marketingbrewingco.com. I would love to read any suggestions you may have, because the goal and the purpose of this show is to equip you guys with resources, tools, and information that can help you grow and scale your business, but also that can help you do better things in your lives. So I hope you guys are enjoying this show. Make sure you share it with everybody, and I will see you guys on the next episode. In the meantime, cheers and have a great day.